All right, so I'm Sam Bound. This is CNIT 126, and there's a few things. It's all going to be remote this semester. I was hoping we could do it face-to-face. I even dropped in at the college, but everything is locked and we can't get in. So it's going to be only remote like this. Now, the main thing you use to attend class is probably Twitch. The cool thing about Twitch is you can just open it and view the lecture and hear the lecture, and you don't need to log in anywhere so anybody in the world can see it. Anyway, I am going to have Zoom running as well, but I don't project the video through Zoom. So if you are in Zoom, you should also go to Twitch, because that's where I'll put it in the chat in the Zoom. The point of Zoom is just so students can share their screens. That's the main purpose of it. If you have trouble on your projects, I use Zoom so you can share your screen. And also, if you come over to Zoom, you can talk on voice chat if you want to. But you have text chat in both Zoom and Twitch. Anyway, so the main tool is Twitch, but Zoom is there as a secondary thing to use, and there will be times, especially later in the class when people are into their hands-on projects, when you'll really want to use Zoom. All right, and let me just take a moment and see if I can do something about the horrible green all over me in Twitch. Filters. No, okay, I may not be able to find it. Oh wait, this one. That's the one. Okay. Well, I had this thing set up better last semester, but then I took it to DEF CON and fouled it up, and it's taken me a while to get the settings back. Anyway, so let's talk about this class. In the first place, if anybody wants to add the course, that's fine with me. I'd like to put everybody in. The City College registration system is very confusing. And he keeps telling me there's nobody on the add list. So if you do want to add, go ahead and try to add in there. Often it takes a week or two for people to figure out how to do it. They keep changing it from one broken state to another broken state, but it never works very well. So if you have trouble adding in the system, that's normal. You do not have to register to participate in the class, only to get official college credit. And anybody's welcome. There is a Canvas tied to City College, which you can only get at if you're a student, but there's another Canvas for anybody to use that's open to the whole world. All right. So the lectures are mostly coming from this book here, Practical Malware Analysis, which is very famous. And I have a little bit from Ghidra and a little bit from Windows Internals. All right. And you can get the textbook for free from the City College bookstore, I guess, or from the library. You go here to Safari Online and put in your CCSF email address. So if you are a CCSF student, you can get a free online copy of the book. If not, then you have to pay for it or find a copy somewhere. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to study Windows malware, not any Linux malware in this course. What you're going to have to do to analyze Windows malware is understand how Windows works. That's why I added the Windows internal stuff to this. Do I have the link for Canvas? It should be here. If not, I'll add it. Oh, you're right. I don't have it here. Yeah, I'll add it. It's a good point. When we take a break, I'll hunt for it. It should be up now, but I'm glad you pointed out to me. I forgot to put it on this page. Good. Thanks for telling me. All right. So anyway, here's an email address. You can reach me. You can also send messages inside Canvas. And you can also catch me on Twitter. Everybody in security should be on Twitter. If you're not using Twitter for any other purpose, that's good, because it really should be just for business use, in my opinion. There are people that use it for other things. But I'm on Twitter at @SamBound. And that's the best way to reach me. Email is almost useless. All my email gets buried under spam so fast that I often miss it. But email sent to this address does not go directly to me. It goes to my very efficient grader, so nothing gets lost and everything gets proper attention. So anyway, so we're going to start with the first couple chapters tonight, and we'll have chapters every night, and quizzes after a while, and projects too. So I'll talk more about them later. The quizzes are online in Canvas, and your grade is determined by quizzes and projects you turn in. And there's a final exam. There is no midterm exam. All right. So I'm going to start, I think, with the first chapter here. There's a policy statement and syllabus that just explains what I told you about how the grading works and such. All right, and so let's take a look at the first chapter, which should be here. There we go. All right, so this will get us off to a start. So malware analysis, I used to think, was completely impossible. You'd have to read through hundreds of pages of assembly code and figure out what malware did, and it sounded like black magic. But that's not really true, because you don't need to figure out everything about it. So here's one of my students got a job as a private IT consultant and went to a medical clinic, and they said, oh, we got malware on the workstation. So he cleaned it off, and they said, okay, you're done. And then he called me and he said, I'm not really sure I'm done with this job. And I said, I'm not sure you're done with that job either. I mean, they might have compliance regulations, and they might have leaked out medical data. That malware might have spread. It might have been used by somebody to do a deeper dive. And I said, I would make sure you at least make a paper trail saying that you don't recommend stopping the investigation at this point. So you'll have something to show people if a disaster comes later, assuming you're not able to convince them to let you do more investigation here. And that is the case. And nowadays, when you get infected, some things are very simple, like you have an equipment failure on a laptop, you replace or fix the laptop. Some malware is pretty simple and you believe it hasn't spread into the system. But these days, there are the advanced persistent threat actors, which are mainly enemy military, although they're also advanced organized crime. And they sneak into your network, take over, and really mess with it. And so now we have the field of instant response, which I've got another class going into that here on Thursday nights, I think. And but the point is, once you find malware on a system, you need to know more than just clean off the malware and call it done. You need to know, did they do more? Are they really gone? What did they do? Did they add more software to that system? And how did they get in? That's the root cause analysis, so you can stop more attacks from coming in through the same weakness. LinkedIn, for example. LinkedIn got hacked about 10 years ago, and I was on LinkedIn. And what happened is the attackers that stole the passwords were not able to crack the password hashes. They cracked most of them, but they took about 60,000 password hashes they couldn't crack and posted them on a crime forum. And this hit the news, and those of us in the security industry found it, and I downloaded it like many other people did, and I cracked the passwords, and I found my password in there. It is my LinkedIn password. And so a bunch of us posted on Twitter, they said, these are real LinkedIn passwords. They really are. LinkedIn's been hacked. And LinkedIn said, no, we haven't been hacked. They just lied about it for about 2 weeks. Then when a bunch of us screamed and yelled and said, dude, you were hacked, that's my password, they said, okay, we got hacked, but we asked our lawyers, and our lawyers say we don't have to do anything about it at all. So we're just not going to do anything. And I was like, you can't just not do anything? That's insane. And in fact, that didn't work. And a couple of years later, they got sued and had a lot of suffering and trouble, because you can't just do nothing when you get hacked. And because you don't know that the intruders aren't still in your system, stealing more passwords, messing with putting malware in whatever people download from your site. You can't just pretend nothing's wrong. So one of the stages here, and the stage this course focuses on, is where you analyze malware to find out what it does. And you're not trying to learn everything about it. You're trying to figure out what harm it does, how to identify it. These are called indicators of compromise, so you can scan more systems and tell which ones are infected, and then how to get rid of it. So here's the goals. You want to know what happened. You want to find all the other infected machines. You want to contain the damage and find signatures to use to scan for more. These are the sort of things. Now, host-based signatures are the simplest, where you find files it creates, registry keys, marks in the file system like mutants, which are just handles in the file in the RAM, and you find out what it does, and then you can run a scan over the network, where you run a little script on all the devices to look for just these specific things. Network signatures are good for malware that uses a network, which is a lot of it, to communicate back to a command and control center. Then you can find that traffic, and that's great, because then all the infected machines are sending traffic you can pick up, and you can just monitor the traffic to find the infected machines, which is nice when you have that option. Now, the problem with all scanning techniques is that you suffer from false positives. This happened to City College. about 8 years ago, there was a chief technology officer at the college who was crazy. And he had done the same thing to several high schools and colleges before he got the job here. He would get a job somewhere, then he would hire his buddy as a consultant who would then claim that there was malware everywhere and demand a bunch of money to clean up all the malware. It was sort of a running scam. And he did this to City College. He said that we had tons of viruses everywhere. He didn't tell anybody at the college or do anything about it except go to the newspaper to make a huge international incident, which it did. It went around the world, terrified everybody. And I was the one at the college that knew this was not true because my students had done a security audit of the college twice as part of my CISSP class, and I knew that that was not true. And it took us about a year to get him fired and push him out, but it was a really outrageous thing. But his lunatic contractor ran network forensic analysis, looking at the network traffic coming from the college, and he claimed that he could find viruses that way. And he claimed that we had 200 Windows viruses on our DNS servers, which were running Linux. And he would not let us see the raw data. So I don't know exactly what he did, but I have a pretty good idea. He got a list of IP addresses that have a bad reputation, and any traffic sent to those addresses he interpreted as an infection. And that is not true. Your email scanner will have to send signals to the source of the email to verify it. So it will send signals to the source, even if it's a malicious source, but that doesn't mean you have a live infection. Anyway, why do they always lie? Well, yes, of course. Well, I think this is actually a very good question. Why do people always lie when they get hacked or breached? I think it's the same reason they pretty much lie about anything. Anytime you go to an authority figure and you say, I have a big problem. Your priests are molesting the children. Your trusted people are embezzling the money. Your doctors are stealing the drugs. The first response is, oh, this will be a huge problem. This will be a lot of work. Why don't you just shut up and go away? It's always just shoot the messenger. It just seems to be a thing about being a figure in authority. I think if you're a figure in authority, a lot of people come to you with problems all the time, and you just get a reflex reaction of swatting away all the ones you can and only dealing with the ones that are really serious. But it's certainly the case that I've done a ton of this. I contacted hundreds of companies about security flaws, and nobody ever wants to hear it. It requires a whole cultural shift to welcome people telling you about problems and take it seriously. Every company goes through this. Microsoft went through it. Apple went through it, where they lie and pretend they have no security problems and just ignore all the reports as long as they can. And then at one point they have sort of a traumatic conversion where they admit, like Apple. Apple said, we have no viruses, we have no security problems, we're perfect, until they finally had problems they couldn't lie about and cover up. And then they had to admit, we're just like all the rest. We got problems. Now you need antivirus. Now we need to keep sending out patches. And they really didn't appreciate, being demeaned down to that level. People resist it, but they eventually have to admit that when people come to you and tell you that something awful is happening in your company, you have to actually listen to them because it might be true. But anyway, I don't know about the security con in South Dakota. But anyway, all right. So here's the techniques of malware analysis, which are very nice these days. It's not as difficult as it used to be. Now, the original technique, which is the one I knew about years ago, is static analysis, where you just read the code and figure out what it does. And that is an option, but that is the most difficult technique, so it's not the first one. But there is simple static analysis, where you don't read the code, you do simpler things, like you send it to VirusTotal and see if somebody else already analyzed it for you. That would be handy. Or you get the strings, where you just read all the readable strings, and then you're reading the readable messages, and from that you can deduce something about what it's doing. But the toughest is when you use disassembler like IDA Pro that shows you the raw assembly code in the malware, and then you dig through that. And we'll do all these things, at least in simple cases. Then dynamic analysis is fun and easy and powerful. You deliberately infect a virtual machine, let the malware run, and see what it does. See what network traffic it makes, what registry keys it makes, what files it makes, and that way you can quickly find out what it does. It's pretty good. Oh yeah, the MyPillow conference. Yeah, I know about that. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. Anyway, so basic static analysis is where you view the malware without reading the code. You look at and without running it. So you look at the strings or send it to VirusTotal. This is like trying to guess what box you have under the Christmas tree without opening it by shaking it, feeling it. You get a very cursory analysis, but it's easy. Dynamic analysis, you run it. and see what it does. This is easy and fun. The problem is a lot of malware is aware of this, and it will not actually do the malicious stuff when run in a virtual machine. So this fails fairly often, but it works most of the time. And here's another fundamental trick about this, and the same thing's true of criminal investigation. You have malware. The malware is probably evasive and sneaky, but you don't really need to figure out everything about it, and you don't need to overcome every barrier. You just need to get enough of your tools working to find out what it did. Just like a detective does not need to find every clue. They just need to find enough clues to figure out what's going on. So it's okay that you use a fast, sloppy technique that might fail because you try it. And if it doesn't work, you go on to the next technique. You also have to have a lot of tools, and you have to quickly move on to the next tool because a lot of your tools will fail for strange reasons that you may never figure out because the bad guys are trying to evade the tools. So they may use anti-forensic techniques to cause your tools to fail. All right, so advanced analysis. Advanced static analysis is where you reverse engineer it with a disassembler, take it apart, read the code, and that's complicated. And then advanced dynamic analysis is easier again, where you run the code, but you run the code in a debugger so you can modify how it runs. You can run it and pause partway through and change values and modify pieces of the code to make it run differently. And that is only a little more difficult than just straight up dynamic analysis. So, all right. So then there's the types of malware, which you probably already know. There's backdoors, give an attacker control of the system. There's botnets, where your system becomes a member of an army of infected machines that are controlled from one central server. There's downloaders that are just for staged malware, where the first malware just downloads more malware. There's things that steal information, like password hashes, key presses, or network traffic. There's malware that's used to launch other malware. And there's rootkits that hide at the bottom of your operating system so that they add extra processes that you don't know about and can't see, extra files, extra things are going on that you can't control. And they're very hard to detect and very hard to remove. And then there's scareware that tricks you into doing something. Spam senders, worms and viruses that spread, and ransomware, of course, the huge one these days. Probably the number one moneymaker, I guess, these days. It used to be spam. These days, it seems like the number one maker is ransomware. It's just appalling, and we don't seem to have much in the way of good defenses. So mass malware is the most common type, where they send millions of copies of exactly the same malware to many people, and this is what antivirus can stop. Antivirus is not much use against a targeted attack. It's only mainly useful against mass malware, where there's many identical files and it's got a list and it can detect it. Targeted attacks, customized to attack just one person, are very difficult to stop. This is why you need an incident response team and threat hunters. That's what the advanced persistent threats do. They don't send a million people the same file. They point at a high-value company, like an oil company, and they research it and carefully break in. And that requires a customer response on the other side, and an incident response team on the other side, which is a bunch of humans defending it. There's no automated process that's going to defend you from that kind of attack. Although the automated tools do help the human incident response team to gain more data and respond more quickly. All right, so here's the general rules. Don't waste your time on details. I learned a lot of this doing capture the flag contests. If you get stuck in some complicated and bogged down for hour after hour, you're probably just going in the wrong direction. Just start again. Try many tools, and be aware that all the rules keep getting broken and all your tools keep not working, because it's an intelligent enemy. They learn your techniques and they try to defeat them. So anyway, I've got some Cahoots. So go to, let me bring this up. In one of my windows, I have my Cahoots. There we are. Good. So it will give you a URL to go to. This is 126.1a. All right. All right. And actually, let me check and make sure this one is slow enough, because when I do it over the Twitch, it gets slow. So let me edit it. and make sure that people have enough time. Here's the time limit. Okay. All right. And, oops. All right. Pardon me. I'm getting in trouble here. Let me find, there's a screen that I can use. Okay, this is 1A. All right, I need to go here. Okay, I need to make them all 30 seconds. There we go. All right. All right, so here we are at 1A. This should work. Not that random area. That's what I did. Good. Okay. All right. So go to Kahoot.it and put in that number. And this is an extra credit thing. You can earn a few extra points by doing well in this quiz. The only purpose is to keep people from falling asleep. Yeah.
We don't see a number. Where would that number be?
You have to go to Twitch. Twitch is, all the visuals have been going to Twitch. I'll put the URL in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, yeah, let me know. That's important. Be no fun without that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, if you have any troubles, let me know. All right, and I wanted to save this thing. I see a lot of people are making it, which is good. 126. There we go. And this is going to be... That'll do. All right. All right, so we got 20 people. That's pretty good. All right, I'll wait a few more. Whoa. I'm not sure if it's going up or down. All right. I'll wait a few more seconds to see if any more people get in. Sure, anybody can join the Twitch. Feel free. And Kappa is pretty good. We're going to use it in the project. Good. All right. I think about 5 more seconds and we'll get started. All right. So you'll have to read this thing and then choose an answer on your screen. So, which technique requires deliberately infecting a computer? All right, yeah, that's it, dynamic analysis. It rates you on accuracy and speed, so you can get 1,000 points per question. Anyway. All right, what technique can find many infected computers from a single point? Yep, that's it. Network analysis. All right. All right. Which one involves running parts of the code and stopping at breakpoints? All right, that's what a debugger does. Good. All right, what malware spreads to other systems? All right, those are worms. Good. All right, and what malware conceals other code? All right, and those are rootkits. All right, so here's the winners. And people have to tell me their real name to get points. All right. Anyway, all right, I'm going to stop.